Hi everyone, welcome to Quad QA meeting, which is happening on April 12th, 2018. So today the topics for discussion is regarding migration to Jenkins. And Zach, do you want to go first with some of the issues or items that you wanted to discuss, and maybe we can go over the Excel sheet later?
Yeah, okay. I can do that. I have sort of a tutorial style thing planned for how to create new jobs in JGB and organization and that sort of thing. Is that what you guys want to do, or I think that would be helpful.
Yeah, I think that will be good.
I don't even know what JJB is, so I think a tutorial will be really useful.
Okay. Yeah. Alrighty. So I guess I'll get started. Can I steal the screen from you?
Sure. Yeah, sure. Yeah, let me. Okay.
Okay. Alrighty. Well, if you guys want to work along, this would be a great time for you to do so. If you want to get started with this sooner rather than later, this will be setting up from the very beginning of how to start contributing to the test and QA platform. So to start, you have to get the repos. We don't put them in the same manifest, the same repo manifest as our normal cord, because they're sort of separate from that. So on the cord guide, under getting the source code, there's downloading the testing and QA repos. So I'm going to go through this and let's see here. Wrong window. Yeah. So commands are make a directory, cd, and then we're going to run repo init. We're going to grab this QA manifest manifest, which is different than the normal cord manifest. So I checked it out, and then repo sync. And I get some directories. So CI management, manifest, and QA manifest. CI management is where all the JGB and Jenkins stuff is. Manifest and QA manifest are, QA manifest is the list of repos to check out from Garrett that are specific to QA, and the manifest is the one that has all of the cord repos in it. I did this so that it would be convenient to modify those with repo rather than having to use the old git review tool. So let's go into CI management and look at what the directory structure is. So there's, let me make it a little bigger. There's a make file, there's a README, there's some other files. The two ones that really affect the Jenkins workflow are Packer and JGB. So I'm going to start with Packer. So the way that the new system works, over in the new Jenkins, which is jenkins-new.opencore.org. This is hosted in AWS. All of the build executors spin up new AWS instances to run, and all of the jobs are designed with Jenkins Job Builder. And what Jenkins Job Builder is it's a way of writing code that describes how to create a job. So if you go into one of these jobs, so I'm going to go into one of the verified jobs, like let's see what finished recently. This verified cord API test. So this one finished, and if you look at the configuration, it has all of these settings. So a pipeline name, description, how to discard builds, how to trigger in Garrett, the name of the pipeline to run. This one's sort of pipeline from source code, and sort of what to do in this whole thing. So what JGB does is has a way of writing and committing to a source code repo that describes how to create this job, and it also provides a way to create these jobs in a reusable sense so that they can be applied to multiple, or you can have reuse of the job description. So back to the CI management. When you create a job, it's a text file. It's done in YAML. If you go into the JGB directory, let's look at some of the jobs. So I'm going to go in and because we were looking over here at the cord, this is verified cord API test. I'm going to look at the cord window. And so what is this describing? So first off, there's a project name, which the name is cord, the project is the name. You can reuse variables in this syntax of using curly braces and grabbing them. This works in certain cases and not in others. That's described in the documentation. And the project has a list of jobs. And so the jobs list is verify cord jobs. And it has a regular expression that describes that. And notice that this is another variable. There are a bunch of default variables described in the defaults direct file. And in this case, supported branches regular expression is the list of supported branch types. So master 5.0, 4.1, and 4.1 and 4.0. So what happens? It runs this set of jobs, which is a job group, which is named verified cord jobs. And then it has this list of jobs. One is licensed, one is Ansible, and one is API test. And you'll notice that there's this dependency job relationship. So licensed gets run first, Ansible lint gets run only if the licensed job works, and the API test only gets run if the licensed and the Ansible works. This prevents us from spinning up an API test on something that doesn't, that fails earlier on. So, but these are just names. Where are the actual jobs defined? If you look,
Zach, can you repeat that dependency jobs one more time on how that works? Which one gets run first and which one gets run if that gets passed?
So dependency jobs is the name, the rendered name of all the jobs that job depends on. And so you'll see that in the syntax is, if there's no colon after it, you're not passing a variable to it. When this syntax is kind of like, for this job, set these variables. If you have a colon and then a list of variables, so you can set variables on a per job basis if you wanted to. So what I'm doing here in verified cord jobs, I'm setting branch regex for every job that descends from that to be this variable. So that would be the same as if I had these 3 jobs listed here and branch regex set for each of them. So there's this sort of cascading from the project down to the job group. Then the next lower thing is the job template.
Zach, sorry, one question. Can you go back, please? In the dependency jobs, in the last line, do we need to mention both of them? Because if you just mention Ansible lint, isn't it indirectly waiting for cord license to be tested first?
You're correct, and that is an optimization we could do. So okay. I wasn't thinking about that. So, but that's something we could do.
Okay. Just
so that actually is a good idea because that would be less code to maintain. Okay, so this is the name or the ID of a job template. So let's look at some of the job templates. So this is where things actually start happening. So over here you had verify licensed. There's a job template here for verify licensed, and it has a name, and it expands to verify the name of the project and licensed. And you'll notice that back in the dependencies, the dependency isn't verify dash. It doesn't have dashes. It has the name of the actual project, because the dependency jobs are interpreted directly by Jenkins, not by JGB. So you have to use the full name there. That tripped me up once or twice. This is the actual list of things that get run and turned into the job. So I had a description. I have a list of triggers, properties, wrappers, SCM, and then finally a builder command which runs a shell script which performs the license check. So these all map really closely onto the jobs that actually get created in Jenkins. So this is the license job. So let's look at this verify Helm charts licensed. Where is it? In the configure section. So this managed by Jenkins Job Builder comes straight from here. The discardable builds and log rotation comes from
Zach, I'm not able to hear you.
Yeah.
here as
Yes.
well.
Yeah.
That
Zach, your voice is breaking.
pull something from the default. Custom code for Zach. Sujitra, did you say something?
Yeah, sorry, we were not able to hear you clear. Sometimes, some part of the time we lost you.
Oh.
Your voice is breaking actually, even now.
Okay, sorry about that.
No worries. Yeah, I think it looks fine, right? And I'm able to hear you now proper. Hello? Zach, can you hear us?
We might have lost him.
Yeah, looks like. Can somebody ping him?
Okay.
Yeah, I can try. Hold on.
Thank you. It's just that we lost his voice, looks like. Okay, he's reconnecting then. Zach, do you still have the presenter rights?
Hi, can you guys hear me again?
Yeah, we can. Maybe you should continue for
Okay, sorry about that. I don't think I have presenter rights.
Okay, 1 second. It still shows presenter. Can you try now?
Okay, can everyone hear me again?
Yep. For me,
Yeah, all right. Sorry about that. I don't know what's going on here with the internet. I'm going to start from talking about the job templates. Job templates have a name which is dynamically created. They have a description which is dynamically created. They have a bunch of settings, and these settings map directly onto settings in Jenkins. So when you look at a setting in here, there's a one-to-one correspondence between what goes on here and what's in the setting. So for example, this SCM setting has a Git URL, and that corresponds into the repository URL and various other things like that. So if you needed to add
quick question, Zach, is this this job template file created manually and then
yes.
it maps to the Jenkins, or is it the other way around? You first created it in the Jenkins UI, and then this file was generated.
No, so you create it in the text editor, and then when you send your changes up to Jenkins, it converts it into the Jenkins job. So yeah, and what Jenkins Job Builder does is it takes this YAML format, does all the variable replacement, turns it into an XML file, and feeds the XML file to Jenkins, and Jenkins then creates jobs. That's how it works internally. And also the testing, when you run the test, the make test command to test your jobs, it will do that, and you can go inspect that XML output if you are so inclined.
So, Zach, one more question. In this file, when you're defining this file, there are particular attributes for each under each section, right? Let's say SEM. How do you know that git-URL is the ID that corresponds to that particular field on the UI? Is there a way for me to figure out?
Okay, so let's pop up the stack one section further. You'll notice that a lot of these are cord infra or LF intra. So to assist in writing these and to provide another layer of abstraction, there's a macro functionality. So let's look at the cord macros. So there are macros in here that do things like, let's look for one, cord info, Garrett trigger, patch set. So what does that do? So you look in here, and so cord infra Garrett trigger patch set is a trigger. And if you look at the actual documentation, I'm going to grab the official documentation from Garrett, or from the Jenkins Job Builder thing. It has this explanation of all of the options for the Garrett trigger. And so this generally is a one-to-one correspondence between the what's in the Jenkins UI, and it basically gives you every option that's in the Jenkins UI.
Okay.
So if you look at
can we do it
the
other way around, Zach? Can we do it the other way around? Actually, use the UI to generate this file.
Nope, doesn't work that way. Okay. You'd like it to. I wish there was a dump out of the UI into a thing, but that's not the way JGB works.
Okay.
Yeah,
so
that'd be convenient.
Yeah, it would be. But I didn't design this, and it would be nice if it did pop up in the other direction.
Yeah, but I think it's fine as long as we have this documentation. I was wondering, how do we get this relationship between these attributes?
Right. So I tried to make this as obvious as possible. So I put links to the docs if I have a macro. If you're going to call something directly, so for example, over in the docs, I have some docs templates. I called the publish over SSH plugin, and so that I put a link to the actual docs, and it says it's a publisher. It runs SSH, and these are the settings that it uses. Really, what you have to do kind of is figure out what you want to do in Jenkins. Go to the JGB docs, figure out the command in JGB, and then fill in your variables. And the other thing you can do is, if you have trouble, if you're having issues with the with a job after you've loaded it, you can go into Jenkins, modify the job, test it to make sure it works, then copy your changes from here. So let's say I needed like this pattern change. I could put this pattern back in the file that where that pattern started, and then rerun it. When you upload your changes to JGB, it will overwrite all of the changes, all the manual changes you've made in Jenkins. So you can't, basically the other than testing, treat the Jenkins UI as sort of read-only. just realize that any changes you make will get overwritten.
Zach, do you know that how long it takes for those changes to go overridden? Because I did that a couple times, and like, they stayed intact. The manual changes I did on a couple of the jobs, they stayed intact for like at least a couple hours. But it looks like, you know, there's like a cycle where it gets overridden by what's actually in these templates.
Right. There's a so the process is when you upload a change, it runs it through the CI management JGB verify task. Which, if you look, it goes through and runs all these tests and brings all this stuff, and then in the end renders. Let's keep going. Writing XML, and it writes out all of these test chart names, and then it when it finishes, if it completes properly, then it says success. And you have to have this before you can run the merge job. And what the merge job is actually loads these Jenkins
XMLs.
Loads the JGB definitions into Jenkins. So if there's a delay between those two, that would be an issue. So let's say you've gone through, you've figured out what you need for macros. These macros are basically set up as default sane settings for a lot of things, or convenience features. And you've gone through, you've made your job template. You've put the ID of the job template in the job you needed for verification. You think you did everything right. So you come along and you go back up a directory to where the make file is and you run make test. And what does this do? It sets up a virtual env for the Jenkins job builder, downloads all the packages with pip, activates it, and then, okay, so it tried to do this and it couldn't find a template. So there's one other step that I need to add to the docs, which is that there's Linux Foundation, when they set this up, they use git submodules. So you have to do git submodule init and git submodule update. What this does is this grabs the submodules for global JGB, which is where all of Linux Foundation stuff is, and a few other things. So now if we do make test, it should go through, find all the stuff. The output of this is pretty hairy. It's kind of hard to figure out what went wrong if it doesn't print out an error. Sometimes it'll print you out a Python backtrace, and you have to go dig through the JGB code to figure out where the actual error is. So what did this do? This generated a bunch of job configs. So because we were looking at that, let's look at this job config verify helm licensed. So what did it generate? It generated this giant chunk of XML, because XML is what Jenkins understands as job definitions. This is what it will feed to the Jenkins to actually create the job. And so you can look through here. If you have, for example, I had trouble where I was passing a wrong variable name and it didn't make it into the config. So I could look at my YAML job config file and then look at this and notice that the change hadn't made it in. And that helped me figure out that I had formatted something wrong in the YAML.
Now, is this make test target in that repo, is that the same steps or same verification steps that the verify JGB job does? When you push
it is the same steps as, where is it? The JGB verify.
Okay. So you could do all that locally before even pushing it up for review. Okay, that's good.
Right. But I'm very surprised that when Linux Foundation gave us this, they didn't give us a way of running the tests locally. It seemed kind of nonsensical that they would have you have a test that is this complicated, but no way to verify it locally. So this implements that local test.
Okay, nice.
Okay, so general structure items. In the way that I decide to structure things, which we can change, is in the main directory there's the macros, the defaults. And then there are a few files that have job templates. Docs, lint, and API tester are three that have are three things that contain just the either jobs that cross repos or jobs that are just job templates. For all of the other things, for all the verification jobs, I put them all in this verify directory, and they're named with the name of the repo in Garrett, and the and they all are pretty similar. So if you look at the mass one, what does it run? It runs the license check. The license check is the copyright check. And Ansible lint, because it needs that. If you look at platform fall, it's the same thing except you run the API test, and core's the same. So if you need to add a new verification, you go here, you create a new YAML file with the name of the Git repo, and you add the jobs to it in a job group. So that should be pretty easy. If you actually want to add a new job, you go through and you create a job in one of the other files. So for example, you create a job template in the main directory. If you need to add a new macro, which I'm trying to make it so that most of the macros are pretty
Zach,
self-explanatory.
a quick question. The verify subdirectory is something that you created to classify all verification jobs. It's not necessary that everything goes there, right? You can create your own directory.
Yeah, correct. You could create your own directory. I am proposing this as an organizational scheme.
Okay.
If we have a better organizational scheme, then
no, that's not what I meant. I'm not talking about a better organizational scheme. I was wondering if this is something that is imposed by the Linux Foundation infrastructure, or it's something that you did.
No, it isn't. But I tried to make it follow as logically as I could. All the verify jobs are named verify. So I thought if you stuck verify as the first component, and then all of the per Git repo tasks were in there named with it, it would make the same path component of verify, name of repo, and then job name comes after that.
Yeah. So that makes sense. Are there other job categories you created, or verify is the first one only?
The verify was the first one. I could easily see us having a build one that's all of the
the build is the biggest one actually.
Right.
I see. Okay.
Build is the regular jobs that we have right now, where we are building every night these pods, and then after that we have a build test jobs where we are testing on the builds.
Right. So one of the things that JGB lets you do is create jobs that shard, or that you can get multiple jobs out of one definition. So so one example of that is how let's see, this one project made a job group with 3 jobs. You could also do things. So one of the ways that the JGB is set up in some places is you could have this branch object could be a list, and then you could make a job group, and each of these you'd have like verify licensed. So it would be verify _cord _license _ master, or cord 4.0 or 5.0 or other things. You could make a job for each. We decided to, so we don't end up having an exponentially growing, or what is it, cubic, or we have a multiplicative increase in jobs. We decided to not do it that way, and try and incorporate all the verified jobs into one job that works off of the branch value that Garrett passes. So all that to say is how this was given to us was as a tool set. How you actually use the tool set wasn't really explained well. This is the solution I figured out for using this tool set, and how we actually use it can differ from this, but I think this is a pretty good way starting forward.
Looks good, Zach. Actually, having a template really helps everyone to be in the same pace, right? And we can refining the templates.
Yeah, I agree. So that all said, I've made quite a few jobs in here, and I'd like for other people to sort of see about finishing it off or adding new jobs. If you have questions about, hey, how do I do this or do that, that'd be great. Just ask on the QA channel, and I can guide you the best as I can, and I can review your patch sets and that sort of thing. Make sure to run the make test before you submit or ask questions, unless you get stuck on the make test, and then obviously ask questions. But this is a complicated thing. Once your head wraps around it, everything sort of tends to click and to get into place. What really started making it click for me was the macros section, because those were, as Suchitra pointed out, were pretty opaque. I don't know where did these variables come from, and then figuring out that you call the macro actually calls the background module in which is documented in the JGB documentation. So and the JGB documentation isn't prescriptive. It doesn't really tell you how to use it. It just sort of is, here's your set of tools and go at it, which isn't a great approach to teaching people. So are there any questions about this? I think that as people start using it, you'll probably end up having questions. I did write a few documentation notes in the, there's a README that's pretty prescriptive of how to create new things, links to the documentation, how to make a job template, how to make macros.
So do we want to specify? So like you say, this is a complex system. It takes a little bit of learning curve to get it right. Do you want to specify a process of, let's say, I would like to think of a new automated job. It's not necessarily a verified something related to, let's say, build, or maybe building a container or something like that. Do you want to specify a process and say, guys, not everybody would want to go in and create a job and submit to the Git and just start launching it? Do you want to say, let's just go through creating a job and then get it verified by Luca and Zach or something like that for the team? Because it feels like this is a very brittle system. One wrong move and it goes bad, and we don't know what's going on.
Coming up with how you want to run a job and that sort of thing is pretty similar to how it was before. If somebody wants to, you can just have it run a Jenkins file. So like the API test is just a Jenkins file. It's not that much more complicated than it was earlier, or any more brittle than it was earlier. Actually, I think this system, because it now has a system of checking and testing.
Yeah, but I think maybe I'm dreaming, but I thought the previous system let you go the other way. You define it in the UI and it actually generates the job for job template for you. Or am I wrong?
It would be nice, but I'm not aware of a Jenkins system that does that. If there's one that exists, that would be great. But
maybe I'm dreaming. Okay.
A lot of the variable use and other things is not wouldn't come back. Wouldn't work in the opposite direction.
Okay.
So some other things.
I'm sorry, to add one point to Gopi's question. I also feel that, let's say, for us, the most important jobs are the verify jobs and the build jobs, right? So we all agree about the templates, what we follow on the verify jobs and build jobs. I think, Gopi, we should be fine. But let's say there is another team who is working on our open source project, and then they want to create their own way of job, like the JJB kind of jobs, then really we do not want to restrict unless they are like interfering in our jobs, right?
Right. So each of these jobs are run in its own sandbox. The chance of a single job bringing another job down, or some sort of a cascading effect, does not exist, right?
Yeah, that's correct, because they're all run in their own AWS instance. So when these run, they they spin up a new builder in most cases, and then the job runs on that builder and then goes away.
Okay.
And the way that, one other thing that I didn't go over, so this is all JGB stuff. There's another thing called Packer. So Packer is a way to modify the actual machine images that are brought up. So there's a Packer directory, there's a bunch of readmes, but the core feature that Luca and I have been changing things on has been here in provision base build. And so what does this do? This is a shell script. It describes on Ubuntu systems, install this set of packages, install this set of Python modules, which is things like robot framework and a bunch of other stuff. Installs repo, the SonarCube scanner, and Helm for the lint, has versions, has checking so that we make sure we get the right versions. When you check in something with a change to the Packer job, what it will do is it will go build a new AMI image, and then you can use that. Now, one thing it doesn't do is automatically change all the other jobs to use the AMI image. So what you have to do is over here in the Packer merge base build, you go through and you figure out down here, where is it? So it will say somewhere in here that it created a new image. Oh yeah, here. AMIs are created. So AMI, AB, this thing. So you have to copy that, go back into the management of Jenkins, go into the configure section, and there's a EC2. There's an EC2 section where you have to set the AMI ID. So you have to cut and paste it into there for all of the base build jobs, or all of the Ubuntu based jobs. And that is done so that you can, that will then use your new updated image. So that's the build the system that these are run on. The other side is building the, or building actual jobs in Jenkins. So I think that's pretty much the extent of the changes that I've implemented in the last week or so. Are there questions?
Yeah, so Zach, I created also a number of jobs of some of the Verify API jobs, but I wasn't using things like macros and the default variables that you created and all that. So like I mentioned earlier in the Slack channel, I'll be refactoring all that and starting to use your templates, and I'll go about creating the rest of the Verify API jobs on all the repos that we intend on verifying. And then also, I want to note that Luke and I have connected QCT Pod 4 to the new Jenkins, and we ran a number of builds on it. They've been failing due to some issue on the QCT Pod on the server itself. So what I did though was we did check in a new Jenkins file for the nightly builds to be run on for the full physical pod build cycle, and so we needed to change it a little bit from how we were doing it before, where it was doing some things where it was checking some code out and getting some variables from the master node on the old Jenkins. But we want to step away from that because we don't want to execute anything on the master node here on this new Jenkins. So we had to make some minor modifications on this new Jenkins file. So we got that pushed up, and we ran the build on pod 1 last night with using that new Jenkins file. So what we're intending on doing today is getting pod 1 connected to this new Jenkins server. Right now only pod 4 is connected to it, but if anyone doesn't have any objections, we're planning on connecting pod 1 to the new Jenkins server, and then triggering all the builds 4.0, 4.1, 5.0, and master using this new Jenkins on this new Jenkins server. The only thing that's going to be different is we're going to be using the new Jenkins file that we checked in yesterday, but ideally the same jobs will be running. That's that's currently running in the old Jenkins file right now. So we have the build jobs and the corresponding test jobs for each build job. So if that all sounds good to everyone, then we're planning on doing that today.
Yeah.
And I still need to push up the new Jenkins job template. So Zach, I'll probably be pinging you for some Garrett reviews on that.
Yeah, I can help you with the reviews, and I think it's a great improvement. Also, the new Jenkins file we clean it up from some stuff, and again, as I said yesterday at the stand-up, we do the cleanup of the pod now at the beginning of every job, which is a very nice thing to have for further debug if something goes bad. So, yeah, I don't see reasons why we shouldn't move forward with it.
Yeah, that sounds good. I can review as needed. I think that with the we should probably shard or make multiple jobs based on the name of the pod that we're building on. So you'll probably end up with one or two jobs or job definitions, and then that'll split out to multiple jobs based on templates.
Yeah, that's what I'm intending on doing. Yeah.
You can also, you might want to, for those jobs, like I did in here, you can override, you might want to override variables on a per job basis, or provide a list of different, so maybe you'd have QCT4 here, and maybe it would run RCord and MCord jobs, and then you'd have QCT2 and it would run RCord and ECord jobs or something like that, and you could specify those as variables on a per job basis. There's a whole lot of different ways to do this. I went down the regex route because it's a lot easier than trying to do that. There's an option to do an object copy and to add an actual object into these, but I had a lot of trouble making that actually run. But we can do it different ways. Alrighty, I'm gonna give up screen sharing unless there are other questions. Okay, thanks.
Okay, so let me just take presenter.
So Suchitra, do you want to go through the list of tests that we have and to try to update the status and see what we already moved, what we are moving, and what we can just delete?
Yeah, that is what we decided. Like after Zach's presentation, we'll go with that.
Nice.
Yeah, so we can, yeah, so this is the spreadsheet that we have. I think maybe there are a couple questions here where there is no owner to it. And probably Luca, you can also, I mean, you would know some of these jobs if they are really required, or what are these jobs about?
Yeah, we can go through it together.
Okay. So
let me just find again the file.
you see it on my screen? I'm sharing it.
Yeah. I'm just connected through the phone. That's why.
Oh, okay. So.
Oh, migration to JJB. I found it.
All right.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, so the first few entries over there, we don't have any owner to it, and we do not know if they are being used or not.
Okay, so should we, well, okay, the ONF ABC, I'm putting my name. So no worries about this, likely. So, I think it's what we do in the vRouter and the VSG job. So for the 4.1 basic job of ABC, we don't do anything special. For vRouter and VSG, if you guys want to take a look and maybe copy somewhere else the code that we use, I think it's very cool because we bring up with a Jenkins file a vRouter and we instantiate a VSG on a pod.
Okay, you're setting up vRouter configuration there?
Yeah, so we configure vRouter in the first one, and we add VSG with the second one to a pod with Jenkins files. So if you guys want to take them, the idea of this job is that because now the service provider is directly implementing this job on their own Jenkins. But I don't know if you guys want to take examples. The idea was that these three jobs run in sequence. So first we bring up the pod, then we configure the router immediately after that, and then we instantiate the VSG. And then now they have other jobs to see if we can ping and go through.
Okay, maybe we can look at the vRouter, and because we have our ways to bring up VSG, we can look at the VSG also, and then if it is completely different, we can copy.
Okay, so I put owner me, but I mean, take it from there. Feel free from my side to delete it, except that if you need the code, maybe it's useful for you. Okay.
Okay.
For AAA Garrett, I really don't know what that means, and I don't know who is the owner. So should we look at the content and understand what he's doing, and if it's still relevant?
Yeah. So do you want to take the action, Luca, if you don't mind?
I think that AAA Garrett is a check on the AAA service that was being built for Onos, and I think since I don't think we're building that anymore, so I think we can get rid of it.
Okay, so confirmed. Should I put it on red, meaning we can delete it?
Yep.
Yeah, I think there are a few other jobs that end in Garrett that are like that.
Okay, I left the other three below as QA just because if you guys again want to take the examples and then feel free to put them on red whenever you are ready to abandon them.
Okay, but this is
the VPN with this service provider is not even up anymore. So
okay. So yeah, so the other section, this will be taken care by QA.
So, but all the Calyx one, we can put them already on red, right? Because Calyx, we don't have even the VPN anymore on it, and it's just a normal pod build.
Yeah, exactly. So we are going to use it for FlexPod. So the naming will be different.
Okay, but anyway, on the new system, you'll need to create, you know, a new job following the new profile. So these jobs concretely, you know, we don't have to migrate them anymore, right?
Yeah, migrate in the sense we just left it as is because we know what are the jobs that we still need to consider and what needs to be changed. So let's say this particular Calyx, we will be migrating in the sense we will be using as Flex ONF pod because that's the pod right now.
Right, but the job itself will disappear anyway.
Yeah, right.
Okay. Plus, we're going to use Flex, as far as I remember, for something else, right? For the Kubernetes tests.
I'm sorry, you were saying something, Luca? I couldn't understand.
Yeah, I say plus, as far as I understood, this Calyx pod in Flex will be used to test Kubernetes. So the job will really be different, right?
Yes,
It will be something else.
Yeah. So the connections are also different. So this is completely new for Kubernetes. Yeah, maybe let me just note it down here. Oops. I can't go back. Can't go back. Yeah, anyway, let's move further. I can take that note later.
But anyway, you guys take care of, essentially here we have the Flex pod. By the way, now I told you Flex is now connected through the VPN, so you can start to add the pods in Flex to the new Jenkins.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
So also Flex is connected and is ready to go.
Okay.
And then there's the QCT thing, right?
Yeah, the QCT. Yeah, so this is migration is in progress, right? So you guys are taking care of that. QCT 1.
Yes. So I put it all in yellow. I assume that means in progress, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Okay, so the next one here is config get it, which we do not know what it is. This is like Ono's app check.
Yeah, I marked all the Garrett ones that are Onus apps as delete because I don't think they're needed anymore.
Okay.
The next couple are mine. I moved over the cord and the cord copyright ones. We need to still make that'll be when we make verified things. So I think Kailash said he was going to work on that. We basically need a file in it for every Git repo we have in Garrett in that verify directory.
Yeah, I'll be doing that.
Okay, that'll be great. And now the documentation check and publish should be fixed. I have a patch for those, but I need to test, make sure that they're working properly.
All right. So yeah, GUI pipeline.
That's already migrated.
This migrated?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
It's the first job that we put on the new Jenkins.
Oh, okay.
What's it named?
Huh?
What is the name of it?
It's on the new Jenkins, you mean?
Yes.
XOS GUI unit.
Is that a verification job?
I don't know. Wait, because
Hold on.
I'm wondering if there's another.
It's
UI.
actually called XOS GUI unit.
There is
Okay.
So it might not be that pipeline one.
Okay, so
We
I
should probably rename it. But
okay,
yeah.
let me remove the background and let me verify with Theo. Probably in the stand-up, it would be nice if we can quickly go after the stand-up again over this job with the others, just to verify what's going on.
XOS GUI, there is one more, so maybe we need to see which one it is.
Yeah, even because the one we published initially on the new Jenkins wasn't, it wasn't a pipeline job. It was a bash thing. So anyway, Zach, the one you asked me if it's a verified job. Yes, it's a verified job. Basically, it listens for Garrett patches in the UI repo and it runs unit tests. So
Okay, so we should add it as in the verify XOS cord GUI or whatever the name of the repo is in the verify section. It should get called from there, and then the job probably needs to be defined either in that verified file or in a different location, and rename it so that it's verify.
Yep.
So who's supposed to do this?
So
I don't think we have an XOS GUI one. So do you want to do that, Kailash? Can you make the?
but I think
Yeah,
shouldn't we check with Tio also, because we have another one XOS GUI and then this is another cord GUI. So which one do we need to keep? And then
So XOS GUI for sure, the one that is already on the new Jenkins, I migrated it with Matteo, and I know it's needed. Those are the unit tests for the UI.
Okay.
So those are needed. This one I will check with later with Matteo in 5 minutes. We have the stand-up and we'll check.
All right. So the next one then, let's move on. Code owner. Yeah. I'm just checking the time so we can just move on.
Yeah.
How about this? Ono's app publishing. Do we still need it?
Don't know anything about it. Why did you put Jono?
Yeah, I put with Jono there.
I think that is. I think that pushes the old Onos apps to the Sonatype repo, and I don't think we're using it anymore. I think it can go away.
Okay, so but I'm just wondering, why did you put Jono there? Because before we say I think, I want to make sure that people that created this job are really okay with it, right? Before we delete stuff that is supposed instead to be there.
Yeah, I mean, we put Jono there because we wanted to see, like, we didn't know whether this is a job that we are going to use it or not going to use it at all, and then just confirm.
Okay, I'm sending a message now to John on Slack. Okay, he will reply at some point.
All right, the next one then. Pod build test.
I don't have any idea of what that is. I don't have any idea of what that is.
Okay, so should we just go ahead and delete if nobody is using? Because we are not using it, QA.
So let's keep these jobs here. For the jobs that I see in white, again, I'll go through it in the next 5 minutes with the others, just to make sure we can delete it.
Yeah, I think most of us should be. Yeah, so this is the concerned people are here. These are the actions for the people. All right, so white one, this is QA. So whatever is marked as QA, we will take over those and then we will delete them or migrate them accordingly. So next, let's go to the IGMP ones, IGMP proxy and IGMP Garrett. What are these?
Those are
Somebody.
old deletable bonus tab check things.
Okay.
And MCAS as well.
All right.
The Intel pod, I can confirm we can delete it because we never really built it. We never used it as it was in the plans.
Okay.
Mass, what is this mass thing?
That's the mass Ansible lint check, which is replaced now with verified mass.
So green because it's done already, right?
Done. Yes.
Nice. Okay.
Okay. Next, MCode box. These are.
We will ask Andy. Let's say we will ask Andy, so we make it easier.
I thought Andy.
Yeah.
Andy was on the call.
I'm on. Yeah, these are jobs that I've set up. Just for testing the MCord in a box and running the appropriate tests. I think we should keep these.
Okay, so who would do the migration then?
Sure, you can put me there.
All right.
Do those run on Cloud Lab, Andy?
Yes. Yeah, Cloud Lab is the backend machine.
Okay.
So one of the things we'll need to do is add what are the credentials into Jenkins. That's something that JDB doesn't handle. So I can do that, or Luca can do that. If you can give us a key, or if we can give the pub key of that to you, of the current Jenkins machine to you, you can just add it to however you have those systems set up in Cloud Lab.
Okay.
So should I write all three names here then? You guys will figure it out. Is that okay? The people responsible for migration. I hope it's fine.
Oh, okay. So I received a message from Jono on Core Donuts app publishing. Yes, that I still need it. That publishes snapshot of the apps every night.
Does it run every night?
That's what Jono says.
Okay. So he still needs it going forward?
Yeah, seems so.
So should we leave it to Jono then?
Well, yeah, but then we also need to make sure that Jono does it, right? Because if we say just Jono and Jono doesn't even know or doesn't do it, that's a problem.
Yeah. I mean, we'll let him know, but then, or do you want to?
Yeah. Okay, entity com. Oh, sorry, there are ng40 first. They need to be migrated. Okay, but that's QA. Okay, then I put on red the entity ones because we are not even anymore connected to them and they use their own Jenkins.
Okay.
So
how about these?
OLT Garrett, I don't know.
Which one? Where are you? OLT Garrett, yeah. There's
line 72.
Yes, line 72. I'm not
sure. That I don't know who put it in red and why. but I really don't know anything about it.
Okay.
By the way, we have the stand-up.
Okay. Shall we continue in the
Let's-
stand-up then?
Yeah, let's stay. I think we've categorized most of them further down, or I went through at least. So it looks like it's just the OwnLab pod, the QCT pod. Those R-Cord in a box, are those also, Andy, things that are done on?
Yeah, exactly. So
Okay.
just put my name by those.
Sure.
Okay.
Okay.
And then the XOS Sanity pipelines looks like the other big list of them. Well, the API sanity check is working. The API test is working, but the other ones I don't know exactly how they differ from that. So I'll rely on QA to look at those.
Yes, we will take care. We don't need this anymore.
And these last few, I think, are Mateo items. So.
And how even Tosca unit?
I think he wrote that. I'm not sure.
Okay.
So, Luca, could you bring those, figure those out with Mateo?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
All right. So shall we stop the meeting for now and then continue in the stand-up?
That sounds good. Thanks all.
Thanks,
Bye.
everyone.
Cheers, guys.